So I'm going to go over a TVP and go over my basic game plan and opening, and hopefully this is helpful to Terrans who are struggling in this matchup. Yeah, my basic, my go-to when I'm struggling in a matchup is to watch other pro replays. That's sort of how I figure out, that's how I look for ideas on, like, things that just look good to me and that make sense to me. Another thing that's really important is playing enough games, because if you're not practicing enough, like, you can't really complain. You know, if you play like 6 games a week, you can't really, like, it's just not a big enough sample size to actually, like, have an idea of tough matchups. Alright. Pull up a notepad. So, 10 depot, 12 barracks. I'm going to leave out walling off. I think that's something that you can do, but you certainly don't have to. So, I guess I'll put the vision on myself.
SCV ready.
TVP. It's a pretty good matchup. It's micro intensive, and it's definitely a macro matchup. There's a few all-ins. Like, Terran doesn't have too many right now because the 111 got nerfed. Protoss can do, like, gateway all-ins, immortal all-ins, that type of thing. But there's not too much to be worried about. Okay, so scout after barracks. And one barracks expanding is definitely the best opener in my opinion.
Upgrade complete.
Especially in Heart of the Swarm. I think the gas builds are okay in wings, but with the Nexus Cannon, early aggression pretty much just gets shut down. Alright, so 15 or 16 orbital command and 16 or 17 command center at the natural.
SCV ready.
Alright, SCV Scout, things to look for. You want to look for an expansion. You want to look for the number of gases that Protoss has. You want to check the amount of chrono boost on the Nexus. And the last thing to look for is the number of pylons, which should be 3. If you don't see 3 pylons, there's probably a hidden pylon on the map somewhere. Okay, so bunker.
Our SCVs are under attack.
So I saw this game, I saw 1 gas. I only saw 2 pylons. So just for reference. No 3rd pylon yet. But Protoss is supply blocked at 26. With a bunch of probes queued up. So that would explain the 2 pylons. Okay, so bunker plus 2 barracks. and +2 gas, and orbital command. So this is my go-to opening. A 1 barracks expand, followed up by 2 barracks and 2 gas. It's very safe. I played like 4 games in a row earlier where I held off 4 different all-ins. It's definitely something that, like, it has some weaknesses. You have to be aware of, like, Oracle timings and Mothership Core pressure timings and Stalker Zealot timings. But it's a pretty safe build overall. You have pretty good production off 3 barracks, and so you shouldn't be dying early with the bunker. So the way I defend Mothership Core is I put 1 Marine in the bunker, and then I keep the rest of my Marines back at my base, like up near my main mineral line. Yeah, that's happening. Good. So double gas, double barracks, double gas. My scouting SCV got out. Normal stuff.
Upgrade complete.
eBay at like 30. And a tech lab.
SCV ready. SCV ready.
Add-on complete.
There is some variance in this build. Like, you can get the eBay as late as like 38 or 40 supply and still have a reasonably timed +1 attack. I prefer to get the really early eBay and the early +1. I think it's probably just a good thing to practice, getting these early upgrades. But, you know, you can do it different ways. So I got the early +1. Speed up a little bit.
SCV ready. You want a piece of me, boy? SCV ready.
Factory should be going down about now.
Gangway coming.
Okay, also really important is to scout around outside your base. I'm not doing it this game, but controlling the watchtower and looking for pylons, like around the 6:30, 7-minute mark is when gateway all-ins are hitting, like 4 gates or 4 or 5 gates after a nexus. So scouting around for pylons is really, really, really important if you're dying to early all-ins. And if you find a pylon, put up a second bunker, put up a turret, and you should be pretty safe. Okay. So factory and then add-ons. I'm not going to put a supply count for this just because it's not too important. So I like to get reactors. It's possible to get a tech lab and a reactor. You can get combat shields faster and you can make more marauders, but you have less firepower. Marines just have higher DPS than Marauders.
Go, go, go. SCV ready.
I guess I'll write down 3rd gas around the factory. Starport.
SCV ready.
I really should have this tower. Like, if I got attacked here, I could just lose to a gateway all-in, and
Complete.
I would feel pretty bad about it.
Ready.
Add-on complete. Research.
Okay, about the time you start your Medivacs, you're going to have... Like, this is when you have to decide how you want to play the mid-game. you can either add 2 barracks or you can add a 3rd command center. Both are pretty okay. I think it's good to mix it up, and I mean, adding 2 barracks is you're investing into your military, so you're going to be a little bit safer, and you're going to be able to be more aggressive. But against a good macro defensive Protoss, it's definitely optimal to get the 3rd command center. So you sort of have to make a read on your opponent. Like, if you feel really, really confident, you can just go 5 barracks on 2 base, and then add a later 3rd, and you'll be a lot safer against all-ins. You just have a much bigger army. So I do both, but this game I went for the early 3rd.
Add-on complete.
And the factory can scout.
SCV ready. This better be good.
So pumping out Marines, mostly Marines, because I went for 2 reactors, and pushing out with the first 2 Medivacs.
It's about to get heavy. SCV ready.
So that's the basic opening. Like, this is where the opening ends and the mid game begins. Yeah, like there's a couple different variations of this 2 Medivac opening. This is sort of a kind of a midway between like super economical and super aggressive. You can start your factory a lot faster, and you can delay stim in +1, but it's just a different style of playing. This is kind of middle of the road. Yeah, I would definitely recommend this build if you're struggling in TVP.
SCV ready.
And from here on out, it's just kind of becomes a game. What else? Yeah, from here on out, you want to, like, you kind of want to figure out what Protoss's game plan is to win. If they're trying to go Colossus or Templar or doing some sort of 2-base all-in or turtling, you kind of want to figure that out and react to it. If you see a Protoss that's got Forges and like 1 or 2 Colossus and a Twilight Council, you can derive that they're just going to be taking a 3rd, maxing out, and playing toward that death ball. And then you can throw down more infrastructure and more barracks and a 4th base pretty safely. Or if you see a bunch of gateways, you can prepare for an attack or set up some drops or something like that. So yeah, the basic build order is pretty simple. You expand, put down a couple barracks, you upgrade with the eBay, you tech up towards Starport, and you build Marine Marauder Medivac is kind of the core army. So if you're struggling in this matchup, like looking at a build order like this and just mastering it is a really good place to start, because if you're hitting like the 10-11 minute mark and you're already behind, it's just a really bad starting point. I don't know, like people have different approaches to learning the game, but when I'm struggling with a matchup, I really like to like find some good replays and just study the fuck out of a certain build order and practice it. So just so I get some comfort in the early game and have like a baseline to compare, so I can actually like look at my replays and know what it's supposed to look like. When do I get Marauders against Protoss? I open up 2 reactors, like I said, and then on these additional barracks, I get tech labs. So beyond this initial push, I'm building Marines out of these 2 barracks and Marauders out of these 3. So in the late stage of the game, I'm building mostly Marauders. Because Terran's going to have a really good income with mules, and you have a lot of minerals you can dump into Marauders. Like they're a great mineral dump. When you've got like 1,800 minerals and you can build 16 Marauders, Like it's just a really good way to spend your money versus building Marines, which like they might be more cost efficient, but like having a bunch of extra money in the bank isn't going to help you. So it's better to make the beefier army. All right, and then from this point on, you just sort of play. Like, you can try to get some damage done where you can. Like this game, I'm doing some drops. It's really, really important to see when Protoss takes their third. That's huge. So these drops just, they work. Okay, and this stuff. There's no set order for all this follow-up tech. The armory, the second eBay, the second starport, and the fusion core. But I pretty much just build it when the money comes in. So I add my 4th and 5th barracks and take my 3rd in one order or another. And then that's when I start. That's when, like, you know, this is the point of the opening where you've got your army set up. Like, this is the point you've been playing towards. You can actually get aggressive with these units. And you've got a really strong economy to support it. So this is where you start kind of like playing the aggressive game. And then you're going to have a bunch of money flowing in. And these buildings are all necessary for the later stage. So you do need to throw them down. Did I spell that right? That'd be a miracle. Caduceus.
We could use some help here.
Yeah, so like all this stuff doesn't really matter. I sort of wanted to go over just the basic opening. And I'll run through it one more time and try to focus on the key things. The supply stamps aren't very important. If there's any engagements, if you lose units, they'll be off by 1 or 2. But it's more the order that you build your buildings. And like, as long as you're following the general idea of getting 2 Medivacs out with a bio ball, setting up 3 bases, and like just macroing up really well while being aggressive. If you've got that basic idea, you should do just fine.
Our SCVs are under attack.
I think a good goal is to keep your money under like 500 or 600. Throwing down like a bunch of extra depots or barracks or command centers is definitely better than floating minerals. So it's pretty simple. Yeah, 1 depot, barracks, command center, orbital. You start building Marines. eBay for +1. Factory. Then you get your add-ons. And it's such a logical build. Like, once you get the idea of it down, you should be able to play this build over and over and over and have success with it.
Add-on complete.
Scouting-wise, you actually don't have to scan with this build, and you shouldn't scan. If you're scouting appropriately with your units, there's nothing that can really hurt you too badly with this opening, because you are militarizing pretty heavily. Say when you're doing like a triple command center build, or something like that that's becoming pretty popular, you do need to throw a scan in the Protoss base, because certain things will just kill you if you don't prepare for them But with this build, you can react to most stuff on the fly. And then once you hit the mid game and you have a really good economy, then you can scan all you want to look at army positioning and drop defense and Templar tech and try to, you know, at that point scans aren't as harmful to your economy. Combat shields is an important thing that I'll add in because you really, really don't want to miss that. So just combat shields after stim. I think it's like when you start your Medivacs. So and another thing to mention is I didn't include too many supply counts, but you're basically making non-stop SCVs and non-stop Marines, and there are times I cut Marines to get a building down, and that's perfectly okay, but never cut SCVs. And of course, if you're under attack, prioritize Marine production, and you can delay your tech a little bit.
Upgrade complete. Add-on complete. Research complete.
So this is a good starting point build order. It's not going to answer like all of your problems in TVP. Like this just gets you to a good middle game position where you're in a position that has a lot of potential. I win so many games just off of drops and well-timed scans and attacks from this position. But and that's just icing on the cake. But it's just it's a really solid way to get into a mid game without being behind at all, right? So you still have to beat the Protoss, and there's a lot of decision making required in this matchup. You have to make a lot of snap decisions. When to counterattack, when to engage, when to fly in and out drops, what to target with your dropships, and occasionally, like, pulling all your SCVs and attacking is a proper play, or double or triple expanding can be okay if you see certain clues that your Protoss opponent's going to be defensive. The general theory of this composition is that Marine Marauder Medivac is very, very efficient against gateway units. It just crushes gateway units because of the Medivac healing and just the range, like the weakness of Stalkers and the range of the bio balls against Zealots makes that really efficient. So Protoss has to climb up the tech tree and use Colossus and Templar to combat the bio, and that's when Ghosts and Vikings come in. Less so in Heart of the Swarm because the Caduceus reactor upgrade is ridiculously powerful. I only build Vikings if Protoss has like minimum 4 Colossus, 4 or 5 Colossus. When Protosses do like a 3 Colossus kind of 3 base opening and they switch into Templar tech, I don't get any Vikings. I just get, a little bit faster upgrades, more barracks, and the Caduceus reactor.
Research.
Yeah, so this is kind of where the opening stops. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this TVP opening? I'm sure I was unclear about certain parts of it. I'll pull up the build order. Post the replay? I can do that. I'll have to upload it, but I'll post it. looking for questions. I did win this game. I'll play out the rest of the game.
SCV ready.
With my vision.
Ready for dust-off.
Upgrade complete.
SCV ready.
Mineral field depleted.
How should Terran proceed with aggression against the varying tech paths? Against Templar tech? Okay. So Protoss has Colossus tech and they have Templar tech.
Upgrade
And
complete.
then there's two branches of each of those. There's 2 base Colossus and 3 base Colossus and 2 base Templar and 3 base Templar. And I'll go through those step by step. So 2 base Colossus, you want to just macro up really hard, and you don't want to try too hard to attack. You sort of just, you've got your third up at this point, so you don't need to be too aggressive. You can sort of sit outside their base, and when they push out, you can drop them or counterattack, or if you've got a great conclave, you can just take the engagement. But 2 base Colossus is something that, like, time is on your side. You can just get more and more ahead because you're up a base. 3 base Colossus is, like, that's prime time to be aggressive. That's where, like, Colossus are actually pretty bad on their own. Like, 8 Marines and a Medivac can kill 1 Colossus. So if you drop in multiple locations and kind of have a smallish army outside their natural, sort of like what I'm doing here, actually, or what I was doing, you can often do quite a bit of damage against 3 base Colossus. So like here, I'm dropping a couple locations and pressuring at the front at the same time. And you'll find like stray Colossus like this that you can pick off. And really, I'm on 3 bases and I'm killing a guy who's on 2 bases. So that's just this guy sort of falling apart for no strategical reason.
Upgrade complete. Mineral field depleted.
But this is kind of what you want to do against 3 base Colossus.
Complete.
Against 2 base Templar, you want to counterattack. Templar are really, really good against Marines and Marauders, but they're really bad against buildings and SCVs. So if you get into a base trade situation, usually you'll be in really good shape, because you can just lift off all your buildings. They don't have that much they can actually kill over at your base, and you can
Base is
kill all
under
their
attack.
stuff. 3 base Templar is it's a pretty tough one. That's something you need to be really aggressive against from the get-go.
Base is under attack.
Say a Protoss, like a Protoss that takes an early 3rd base and then techs up behind it into Colossus or Templar. That's kind of the scariest situation. Those are the situations where you often pull all your SCVs, or like really, really try to get those drops through, because if you don't get any damage done there and you guys both took your 3rd at the same time, Protoss is just going to have a stronger army. Now you don't auto lose that situation. Terran can win a macro game against Protoss, but it's not the ideal
Base
situation.
is under attack.
So this turns into a base trade.
Base is under attack. Our SCVs are under attack.
And I end up eliminating him by killing all his buildings.
Base is under attack.
I'll just X8 it,
Base is under attack.
or ×4 it.
Base is under attack. Base is under attack.
We could use some help here. Gangway.
Add-on complete. Base is under attack. Our SCVs are under attack. Unacceptable landing zone.
Okay, and I get there. Let's see, I'll pull up another TVP. Just as a sample game, I'll play through it kind of quickly. Yeah, I've been playing this style since like pretty early seasons of Wings of Liberty, so I've got it fleshed out pretty well. 3 Marines to defend the core. Oh, something else I didn't really talk about is Oracle pressure is a thing that you have to really take into consideration. Like, if Protoss goes double gas and it's a good map for Oracles, I'm building a blind turret in my main. And if not, even if I just see like a 1 gas expand, around the timing an Oracle would come, I have 6 Marines in my main ready for the Oracle, because that thing just wins games really quickly. Wall-ins, I walled in my ramp for a long time, but I actually stopped doing it because it takes a slight toll on your economy, the SCV time, and I don't think it actually helps with anything. I like the wall-in if you're going to do a CC on the high ground and keep the Protoss in the dark, but if you want to go 16 CC on the low ground, they're going to see it anyway, so the wall-in doesn't really hide any information. And defensively, you don't really need it at the ramp. So I got tricked here by a hallucinated Colossus, and I built a couple extra bunkers. And this game I went for the 4th and 5th barracks on 2 bases. And my opponent went for the quick 3rd into Colossus.
Research complete.
Ready for dust off.
So I see the 3rd. I'm taking my 3rd, building my armory. Okay, this is going to be a test, you guys. Let's see how good my macro is. Ready? All these units are about to finish. Let's see how long the barracks are idle. Uh-oh. Oh no. Okay, not too bad. Not too bad. Alright.
This better be good. Let's have a blast.
So I'm faced with a Protoss on 3 bases and with Colossus. So this is something I'm going to try to spread the Protoss out as much as possible.
Upgrade complete.
That's my method of attack here. I've got an army outside the 3rd, and I'm doing 2 drops.
Ready, one piece of me, boy. It's about SCV ready.
So I kill like 5 or 6 stalkers down here. Kill a bunch of probes at the natural.
Add-on complete.
And my normal play here is to go attack the 3rd, but I saw there was an observer, so he's going to have units here because he has the observer. So I scanned it off when I saw it, and then I went to drop. If you know Protoss is prepared for something, that means there's going to be holes elsewhere. So I send the drop. And I'm getting into a base trade situation. Yeah, the draw play and the attacks are a lot harder to teach. A lot of it is just based on feel, and you can't really do double prong drops unless you babysit them. Like, you can try, and it's good to practice them, but you can't afford as a Terran to send Medivacs into Stalkers. Like, if you do that once or if you do that twice, you're just dead in the game. Terran really has to keep momentum going against Protoss. Like, watching lower level streams, I see a lot of Terrans get behind by like sending Medivacs into Blink Stalkers or taking a bad engagement, and then they pull their units back and they turtle up an army, and then they just get absolutely destroyed by Psystorm and Colossus and motherships and carriers and all that stuff. And the reality is the game was over the minute they lost those first Medivacs. Like, Terran really needs to keep chipping away at Protoss to actually stay in the